Hello, everybody. My name is Adrian Talley. I am the superintendent of Indian Prairie School District. Tonight, we are going to have a presentation. Um, the first in what I believe will be a series of parent universities on a variety of topics. Tonight's topic is on Chromebooks. All of us understand that some of you, remote learning is new. We want to give you the tools to make the process easier for you. Tonight, we have two stellar educators who will be presenting tonight. We have Mr. Brian Giovannini, Director of Innovation, and Mr. Andy Fekete, Instructional Technology Specialist. Mr. Giovannini used to be the CEC Director of Elective Curriculum, and he also worked at Neuqua Valley and Mattia Valley High Schools. Mr. Fekete used to be a third grade teacher at Clow Elementary School. Tonight, I believe you'll be able to learn some great tools that you'll be able to use with your children. I'll turn it over now to Mr. Brian Giovannini.
Thank you, Dr. Talley, for allowing Andy and I to speak this evening. We're really excited to support our Indian Prairie families and students as we embark on a remote learning journey this school year. And tonight we're going to showcase some things that we think will be really important as we support our students for day 1, day 10, and for the rest of the school year in any setting that we are in our educational journey this school year. Before we start, though, we do want to say a couple thank yous. One to Dr. Talley for allowing this opportunity tonight, to the communication department, our curriculum and instruction department, who played a huge role in helping us develop this agenda, as well as our team on the technology services side. We couldn't present tonight without the work of all 3 of those departments, including Dr. Talley, to provide the information that we're sharing tonight. Andy and I just have the unique opportunity to showcase some of these things. But please know that this is not Andy and I's work. This is a team of many people who put all this together and really help our students be successful throughout the school year. So tonight we're going to talk about a couple of things. One, how do you get to your username and password? How do you reset it? What does it look like? How do you get logged into all the great resources that we have in our district? Then we're also going to give you support to Chromebooks. What is a Chromebook? How does it work? How does it function in Indian Prairie School District 204? We know that families come from a variety of different experiences and situations, so we want to make sure that you're successful on day 1 in logging into that Chromebook so that we can have a great educational experience. Then we also want to talk to you a little bit about Google for Education. What are the applications we use? How does it work? And what's the why behind it? And what are the platforms that your students will be using throughout this school year? And the last one is the Indian Prairie Single Sign-On platform. As we get to that last part, I think you're really going to be happy of some of the things that platform can provide and how it really makes for an educational experience that just makes it a little user-friendly so you can access all of our digital resources in District 204. So as we start and kind of go on our journey, the first thing that we want to show you is how do you reset your username and password? For many students in K through 12, they may have forgotten their passwords last year. So we want to make sure that we outline the process in order how to do that. Our technology services team has done a great job of allowing our parents to take control of this process so they can reset it at any time to help their students log in when needed and how they need to log in and be successful. So you can see this is a graphic taken directly from the Indian Prairie School District 204 website. It's at the very, very bottom, but this is just one of a number of ways in which you can access parent view and student view. Throughout tonight's presentation, we'll highlight a couple of other ways, including the link up at the top where it says Step 1, Visit Parent View link. These are some great things that you can access. There's also some apps that you can use to engage in the school experience as a parent as well. So this is one that you're going to want to bookmark for yourself that you can access on a frequent basis. And also during tonight's presentation, if you have any questions or need help, support at ipsd.org is a great resource to help you through any technology questions that you may have. So once you've logged into Parent View, this is a screen that you're going to see. Over on the left, you'll see a number of different tabs that you can access. And the first step that you're going to do is at the very top left, you're going to want to find the student that you want to reset the password for. If you have multiple students, you'll see where you can select from the different students that you have in our district. You can identify by the ID or by the student's name. So this is the first place you're going to want to go, because after that, all the steps relate to that specific student. That's the first stop. And this is a screen that you will see when initially logging in. The next step is to navigate to the Student Info tab. On the Student Info tab, this is where you'll be able to find some specific information about your student and some resources that will help you. The part that you're going to need to reset your password is down the screen a little bit. So you are going to need to scroll down through the page and locate the area where it says the self-service password reset. This will generate a PIN or have a PIN that you can use in order to help you reset your student's password. They're going to need this for the next step of the process. So we wanted to point out exactly where you could find that. So again, just to kind of recap those steps, parent view, select your student up at the top left, student info, and then find the reset password option. Once you have that, then you can go through the process and really start to have your students take over or assist them in that process. There's a couple of ways in which you can access this. One, when you go to the sso.ipsd.org, you will see these options, or clicking on the link that is available on this slide. Once there, what you'll need to do is enter your district username, your student ID number, and these can be found in parent view, and then inserting the password reset one-time PIN. Completing that process then will allow you to get a password for your student that you can access many of the resources in our district. And then one other way in which you can access this, for students who remember their password from last year, when they log in, they can find these resources in the app section of the Chromebook. And as Andy goes through this, you'll see kind of what the app section looks like and how you can access the number of these different resources that will be helpful to you throughout the school year. You can see parent view as well as the SSO forgot password. Our technology services does an awesome job of making sure that all the resources are right at the fingertips of our students. These are just a couple of ways in which you can do right away to help your students be successful and help them get started on day one. And that username and password is helpful, not only if you forget your password now, but also throughout the year as well. We are asking that families reset that password. It's just good digital citizenship practice. And by week 3, we really encourage families to reset those passwords for students. Our K-1 families have another unique opportunity that really helps the educational experience for our students. Instead of our kindergarten and first grade students having to remember passwords that are word-based, we have a system that allows our students to remember passwords based on pictures. So the picture password reset, after a student initially logs in the first time, can develop a password that is identified by 4 pictures. And this is what the initial process looks like. Students will be able to select from a number of different student-friendly pictures to help them pick that 4-picture password. You can see here a Game Boy, Darth Vader, Donut, Al, and students get to select the pictures that they think are most relevant to them to help tell their story and hopefully help them remember throughout the school year. So here are some directions if you ever needed to access on how to reset this up. It should generate when a kindergarten student initially logs in. For our first grade students who do not remember they can follow the reset directions as well. And that is all found on the sso.ipsd.org. You can be prompted to enter all these password tips and reset options. For all of our kindergarten new students and first grade students who weren't here last year, you're going to have to reset that process. But if students who had a password last year, you can go through the reset process. After setting the password, I'm going to turn over to Andy to talk a little bit about Chromebooks.
All right, thank you, Brian, and thank you, Dr. Talley, for tonight's opportunity to share some information about Chromebooks and Google for Education with all of you. So let's start off by talking about what is a Chromebook. So a Chromebook is just a laptop that runs Chrome OS as its operating system. The devices are designed to use primarily while connected to the internet, and most of the applications and the information that lives on a Chromebook actually lives in the cloud, which means it's easy to transfer content between devices. So why do we love using Chromebooks in the district? So Chromebooks are lightweight and portable. They're fast and they're always updated for today's browsing. Chromebooks are very safe for our students to use as they're free of viruses and malware. They have a simple and intuitive interface. Everything is cloud-based, from the files to the applications that our students use, as well as the settings. And Chromebooks are always powered on. They have a long-lasting battery life, so we feel confident that as long as we charge our Chromebooks at night, Chromebooks will make it through the entire school day and even longer without needing to be charged or be connected to power. Chromebooks are built using the browser Google Chrome, and Google Chrome itself just has some inherent advantages. It always remains updated, and again, this protects our students from malware and viruses or unsafe sites. Chromebook allows our students to have a personalized experience. Chrome is fast and it's updated, and it's an easy platform to navigate. And that's especially important when we're talking about our youngest learners that are experiencing technology for the first time in their lives. So let's meet a Chromebook. We're going to look at. So here is a Chromebook desktop area when you first log on. This is what it's going to look like, something very similar to this. And as Brian clicks, it's going to highlight some areas that I'm going to talk about. In the lower left-hand corner, so one thing before we get to that point, one thing that you might notice is that there's no apps or icons on the screen. I don't know about your personal computers, but I know on my computer, I have a bunch of apps, icons, folders, random files that fill my screen. On a Chromebook, none of those things exist, right? It's a very clean interface for students to navigate. In the lower left-hand corner, you should see a circle. That circle is the launcher. This is the place where students will go to launch into the applications that teachers are going to direct them to access. The next place to go is the area at the bottom. Brian, can you hover your cursor to the middle of the screen? Thank you. The area at the bottom, these are your this is your app shelf. These are your commonly used apps are going to go on the app shelf for easy access. So that as a student, I don't need to go to that launcher every time, because now I have an icon here for me to quickly access Google Chrome, or for me to quickly access Google Classroom, right? And the other resources that the teachers are going to direct them to access. So a shortcut to get there. The next place is the number in the lower right-hand corner. That number is for notifications. So as students receive notifications, maybe for assignments or alerts or other pieces of information, that number is going to count up or count down, letting them know if they have things that they may need to do. And the final area is the picture in the lower right-hand corner. That picture will launch the settings menu. This is the settings where you will go to connect the Chromebook to your home Wi-Fi, adjust the volume and brightness, as well as some other controls that we'll talk about in a few minutes. This is just a reference slide so that when you review these slides later, kind of just takes you through each of the sections that we just discussed. The next area that I want to discuss is one of my favorite aspects about using and our students using Chromebooks, and that is the Chromebook Keyboard. So the Chromebook Keyboard has some unique features about it that is different than a standard keyboard that you might find on a Windows-based machine or an Apple-based machine, right? So again, some arrows are going to come on the screen and we're going to talk through each area. So one thing that you might notice is that there is no caps lock key. Instead of a caps lock key, you see the magnifying icon. Clicking this icon will allow students to quickly search for a file or application that they are being directed or need to use. So a teacher might say, I need you to pull up your About Me paper, right? They can click the magnifying icon, type in About Me, and it will search their Chromebook, search their Google Drive, and pull back the file that they need. Or a teacher might say, I need you to visit ipsd.org. They can click that button, type in IPSD, and it will take them wherever they need to go. So it ends up being a very helpful and handy button to know about. The next area are the forward and backwards keys. So this is as we are browsing, if we maybe move too far forward or need to jump back, or we're ready to move forward to the next page, these are quick buttons that we can use for that. What the Chromebook keyboard is trying to do is prevent a lot of work with the mouse, right? Or the touchpad. We know, especially for our youngest learners and their first experience with technology, it may be difficult to navigate a touchpad or a mouse. And so the Chromebook keyboard allows some functionality, allows some support for them so that instead of always needing to use that touchpad, they can use the buttons directly on the keyboard to help with some of these things. The next key is the refresh key. This is if we're ever experiencing a problem with a page loading or needing to reload or refresh something, this is a very helpful key as well. The next two keys are your windowing keys. These are helpful. The one on the left is to maximize a window. So this allows that window to go over the top of all other windows on the Chromebook. And so that when your student is working, they can really focus on the one thing that they're in. The one on the right allows windows to separate into separate sections so that if you have multiple things open, you may need to push that button to then find the correct one that the teacher is directing students to access. The next two are for screen brightness. So the one on the left is to dim the screen. The one on the right is to brighten the screen. These are very helpful, especially if it's getting late in the day. Maybe you forgot to charge your Chromebook the night before. You may want to dim the screen, and that will really help extend battery life. The next three are volume mute, volume down, and volume up. These are really nice to know about because on all of the different websites, it seems like every website that you visit, they put the volume in a different place. And so this is if students were to go to a website, maybe they're playing the game or they're joining the Zoom call and the teacher's voice is really soft and they can't hear, or something's really loud and they need to lower it. They're not scrambling to find where the volume controls are on the screen. They can quickly use these buttons directly on the Chromebook keyboard to raise, lower, or mute the volume. And then the last button is the power or sleep button. So it's always good to put your Chromebook to sleep or completely power it down when you're not using it. Again, this will really help with battery life. Again, the purpose of this screen is a reference screen just to review the information that I provided on the previous slide. There are some Chromebook keyboard shortcuts. You can find all of them at that link at the top by clicking Chromebook keyboard shortcuts, and we'll make sure that you have access to this presentation after tonight's session. Some that I want to highlight are caps locks. So if there is a time that caps locks needs to be turned on, because there isn't a caps lock key, there is an option for doing that. You can find Control-C, Control-V, Control-X for copy, paste, and cut. Additionally, I want to point your direction towards the bottom there when you see screenshot full page or screenshot selected area. A screenshot is a nice way for teachers to collect evidence of student work. So occasionally, teachers may direct your student to take a screenshot of their work on the Chromebook screen and submit that as evidence of completion of the assignment. So these are helpful keystrokes to know to easily take a screenshot either of the entire Chromebook, the full page, or a specific area in the screenshot selected area option. I mentioned earlier about Chromebook settings and personalization. So again, clicking that picture in the lower right-hand corner will open some settings. Again, you'll need to go here to connect to your home Wi-Fi, but there may be some other areas that you want to find. There's an accessibility menu that is very helpful. It includes things like increasing the size of the text on the screen, having things read aloud. So that may be very helpful, especially for our youngest learners that are just learning how to read. That may be some supports for them. Google Cloud Print is available. If you have a home printer and you're looking to connect your home printer to your Chromebook, you can check out Google Cloud Print. There's also some keyboard settings and some touchpad settings. There's not a lot to do with the keyboard settings, but touchpad settings may be a place that you want to go, especially as students are learning to use the touchpad for the first time. Their fingers might be very slow across the touchpad or might be very fast across the touchpad, and adjusting these settings appropriately will really help them as they navigate using the Chromebook for the first time. Next area that we want to talk about is Chromebook troubleshooting. So I want to preface all of this by telling you that one of the reasons we chose Chromebooks as our district device for students is because Chromebook issues are very rare. It's very rare that you're going to have an issue with the Chromebook. But we want to be prepared to support our learners if they experience an issue with their device. So what we've done is we've developed a quick 5 to 7 step process for anyone to follow. It's a really easy process. It allows for anyone to follow, and this fixes the vast majority of issues that we commonly see with Chromebooks. Now, this is outside of physical damage to the Chromebook, right? So if something physically happens to it, we'll talk about how to go about getting that repaired. If a screen breaks, the keyboard, something physically breaks with it. This is if something is not working appropriately with the Chromebook. So the first thing to do is to ensure that the Chromebook is connected to the internet. So the Chromebooks work best when they're connected online. So have your students visit a site with a simple URL, something that you can tell to them very simply to ensure that they're connected, right? I'm a big sports fan, so I always tell my kids to go to espn.com, right? Because it's 4 letters, find the E, find the S, find the P, find the N. It's a simple URL, right? Or dogs.com or disney.com, something very simple that they know how to type in. And if that page loads, then they'll know that they're connected to the internet. The next thing to do is to check and see if your Chromebook needs an update. So Chrome updates occur about once a week, sometimes maybe even twice a week. And Chrome updates all the time, again, to keep our students safe by keeping those viruses out, by keeping the Chromebook free of malware, and keeping them protected from other things on the internet. Sometimes a device might miss an update, and this could cause some other issues to occur. Almost all of the updates happen in the background, and you'll probably never notice the Chromebook updating. But the next step would be to update your Chromebook, and we're going to give you some information about where to go to update your Chromebook in a few slides, but the update screen looks like this. If you're still having issues, the next step would be, it may be that you've completed those first 2 steps and the Chromebook is now working fine. But if you're still having an issue, the next step would be to sign the user out of the device, right? So click your picture in the lower right-hand corner and click sign out. Then you're going to shut down the device. Now I want to talk to you briefly about shutting down the device. Closing the lid will only put the Chromebook to sleep. Additionally, sometimes when students push that power button on the keyboard in the upper right-hand corner, they don't necessarily hold it down long enough to really shut down the device. So it just puts the Chromebook to sleep again. So to really make sure that the Chromebook is completely shut down, look on screen at your shutdown menu. So there's a shutdown, the words shutdown that are on the screen, push that, and then that will ensure that the Chromebook is actually completely shut down. Then turn your Chromebook back on and have the user sign in again. Again, those first 5 steps really fix the majority of issues that we've seen. If issues can continue, you can remove the user from the device completely, shut the device down, and then have the user sign in again. Note that when you do this, it's going to prompt you and say that all files and local data associated is going to be removed. But as we mentioned earlier, Chromebooks are completely cloud-based, and the way that we use them in our district does not allow our students to save files directly to the device. So no information, none of your students' information, none of their files, none of their programs, none of their settings are ever going to be lost. When they sign back in, all of those things will reload for them. The final step, if you were still having issues, would be to power cycle the device. This happens by pressing the refresh button and the power/sleep button at the same time. This is like restarting your computer at home, right? Like going to Windows and instead of doing shutdown, doing a restart. That's what this one would do. If you're still having issues with your child's Chromebook, or the Chromebook is physically broken, email support@ipsd.org, and our awesome tech services team will advise you on the next steps for getting it repaired, replaced, or whatever needs to be done. All right, the next area that we want to discuss with you briefly is just a brief overview of what Google for Education is. I know that we've all heard of Google. We've all Googled things at some point in our lives, but Google for Education is a unique set of apps that we use really heavily in our district and that our teachers and students love for learning. We're going to do a quick overview of that. So why is the district using what's called G Suite for Education? It's a free tool, or it's a free set of tools for schools and districts. It's device agnostic, which means that it works on any device. So students can pull up these tools on their computers, their Chromebooks, a tablet, a phone, wherever they're at, they can pull up their files and access their information. And again, so to echo that point, content becomes accessible from anywhere at any time because it's cloud-based. In our district, we have an unlimited amount of storage so that students can put as many files and projects that they want in their Google Drive, which we'll talk about in a moment, and not worry about running out of storage space or having too many files or needing to delete things from kindergarten when I moved to first grade. Right? We have, students that are now in high school that have files that they can look back on from their elementary years and see how they've grown as a writer. It's regularly being updated and improved, and it's a suite of tools that is quick to learn and allows our students to grow upon, right? So that we can start at a basic level, students can learn those basic tools and functionalities, and then they can grow and do so much more from there. Our teachers and schools love it because the tools really promote student collaboration, communication, creation, and critical thinking, which are really the 4 C's that we're really trying to instill in all of our learners. It allows our teachers to spend less time teching and more time teaching. So teachers don't need to worry about, does the tech work? Does the program work? Is it going to do what I need? It just works. And that allows teachers to spend less time doing tech instruction and more time focusing on teaching good content and teaching our learners. Nothing is ever lost or left at home, right? I always say my dog never ate my Google Drive, right? Because it's always there. It's always accessible. And again, as we mentioned, content can be accessed from anywhere. So now we're going to talk about a couple of the common tools that your teachers may be directing your children to go to. The first one is Google Drive. So Google Drive is our cloud-based storage system that's connected to G Suite or Google for Education. So it has unlimited storage. It allows our students to upload and share anything. So they can upload pictures, videos, their files, their writings, whatever they have, they can upload to Google Drive and share it with their teacher. And they can access their content from anywhere. The next place we're going to go is Google Docs, Sheets, and Slides. So these are very much very similar to what we might use in a Microsoft-based environment, such as Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. The difference is that these are cloud-based and are the applications that we use on our Chromebooks. So Google Docs allows us to type sentences, paragraphs, essays, right? Google Sheets allows us to make spreadsheets, and Google Slides allows us to make presentations, very much like the one that you're watching tonight. The advantages to these is that they allow for real-time collaboration, so that a student and the teacher could be in the same file at the same time, right? Or a student and his peers or her peers could be in the same file at the same time, collaborating around an idea. There's autosave, which means every edit saves what I like to call auto-magically. It just magically saves in the background. So you never have to worry about losing your work because everything just saves right away. It's a simplified menu and simplified navigation. So again, for our youngest learners, this is a great place for them to start because there's not a lot of buttons to push. There's not a lot of things to do, right? It's really just a blank canvas for you to just go and start writing. Now this can all be pushed and you can start doing amazing things with it. But as we look to our youngest learners and where they're going to start, this is a great place for them to start. The last one is that it has voice typing. So if our learners might have difficulty typing for the first time or navigating a keyboard, there's voice typing built into these tools so that they could speak some of their ideas or thoughts and have the system type for them. The last area that we're going to talk about is Google Classroom. So Google Classroom is really going to be our hub for remote learning. It's really going to be where all of our teachers are going to start the day. And Google Classroom is really a workflow management platform. It allows our teachers to create, distribute, grade, and provide feedback for content submitted by students from Google Drive. There, students are going to be able to access their digital assignments. They're going to be able to read announcements from their teachers. They're going to be able to participate in discussion questions and forums, even at the kindergarten level. We've seen amazing things happen around these discussion questions and forums. And they're going to be able to find static content and information, all from Google Classroom. So it's really a great tool. I'm going to turn it back over to Brian as he explains the single sign-on platform.
Thank you, Andy. As we start to look at the all these ideas and resources that Andy just talked about from Google Drive and Classroom and all these things, the nice thing about having a single sign-on platform is it allows a student the opportunity to sign on one time and then have access to all the district resources in one area and one platform without having to log in again. So once a student logs into this resource, they can have access to a majority of our district resources after that one initial sign-on. So you can navigate between Google Classroom and all the other things that you may do or experience in a single day. So we're going to show you a little bit about what that experience looks like so that when you log in on that first day, you can get an idea of what that might look like and how you can personalize a single sign-on for you, your student, and how that can look and support them in the educational journey. So up here at the top, you'll see this is the dashboard. This is basically your personalized homepage. This is where you can bookmark things that you're going to use most frequently throughout the day or throughout the year. You can see just a few of the ideas here on what it might look like. There's a few in here that are also directly available for teachers. You can see all the things that are available for students as well. The first thing that you're going to notice when you log in for our kindergarten and first grade students is the Google Classroom. So when you pop open that Chromebook, hit the Chrome web browser, it's going to ask you to sign into the single sign-on. Once there, most likely, you're going to see that Google Classroom, maybe a handful of others, depending on what you added last year as a kindergartner, if you're now in first grade, or what you added as a first grader, if you're now in second grade. But you'll see definitely this Google Classroom. And here's an image that we want you to take note of. Once you access that Google Classroom, then you can go into any of the number of different classrooms that may be generated for you within that device. You can also add Google Drive that Andy talked about right to your homepage. You can access that as well. And you can see some of the other things that are available. So as teachers start to introduce some digital resources to you this year, think about adding these to your dashboard so you can easily navigate through these and make it easy upon yourself. And I'm going to show you how to do that next. So when you're looking for a specific device and your teacher says, add this to your SSO, you can search for it in one of two ways: the search box, or by looking through in all of our different applications over here on the left. You can also filter based on what you need. And so these are the different ways in which you can do it. By looking through it in the application tab over here, this is where you can easily pin it to your dashboard. And I'll show you how that looks in a second. But if you do the search bar, as you type a word in, you could also find what you're looking for and simply launch it from there. So once you find these, you can filter, you can launch. Launching means you generate the website. So if I wanted to go to Adobe Spark, I would press the launch button, which appears at the bottom right, and then it would open up Adobe Spark. If I wanted to open Google Classroom, I could click the launch and go right to Google Classroom as well. And so if you find a particular resource that you want to add and personalize it to your homepage, once you find that, you will find this little flag down at the bottom left, and you can click on it and it turns blue, and that will now be in your personalized homepage, which is your dashboard. And like I said before, you can see right here where you can find the launch to access that resource right away. So those are just a couple of ways in which you can find success by using the SSO. Like I said, the SSO is a great resource for us because it's a one-stop shop and allows us to have access to all the resources in our district with one sign-on, instead of having to go to Google Classroom and sign on, Google Drive and sign on, Google Classroom, and all the other things that we do in our district. This allows us to do that. And this is a really important time to make sure that we give a big thank you to Technology Services. They do a lot of work behind the scenes to automate this process and make sure that not only our students' privacy is safe, but making sure that our experience is successful for our students and families and teachers, so that this can work seamlessly once day one starts. So now we've shown you what a Chromebook is, how to get your password, a little bit about Google Drive. Now we want you to be successful on day one. So what are some things that you and your family can do once you get your Chromebook and those initial resources to start the year? The first thing that we recommend is, once you get your Chromebook, plug it in for at least an hour. Why we recommend that is because sometimes the Chromebook might be powered all the way down and it may not have any charge left. So you may be asking that my Chromebook is not working. Well, let it charge for at least an hour to go through some of these next steps. After that, we recommend having your student log in and practice logging into their Chromebook. All right, there are some great resources that our communication department, technology service, C&I have developed and put in this IPSD school readiness bit.ly for you to access. A number of great resources, tutorials to help you start this school year, and then things that'll be important after that as well. The other thing that Andy talked about was, I think it was step 3, making sure that your Chromebook is up to date. We recommend at the start of the year to just make sure that it's up to date. Here is a website on how to do that and how to navigate that process. It's a pretty easy process that you can walk yourself through to make sure that your Chromebook functions appropriately and make sure that all of our resources work appropriately. We think it's really important to do this at the start, just to make sure you start off with success. Like Andy said, most of the updates you will never notice, you will never hear about, and they just happen automatically. But let's start off with success, and we recommend doing that. So having your student log into the Chromebook, and then making sure that your Chromebook is up to date. After you've done those two things, open up that Chrome web browser and access a single sign-on. It's a great resource you can see, and you can start to look at all the things that are available in our district. Your teacher will identify the things that you'll be using in your class, but really you should see that the initial step is the Google Classroom. So once you've logged into the SSO, and it should load automatically once you do that, or you could access it at sso.ipsd.org. But once you're there, you should see that Google Classroom login or logo. Click on it, launch it, and then see all the classrooms that are available to you. If you're a kindergarten student, you're probably going to see your homeroom, so your homeroom teacher's classroom. You might see your PE teacher, your art teacher, and your music teacher. For any of our students who are in higher grades for 6 through 12, you're going to see a number of different teachers as well throughout the day as well. So you could have as many as, you could have as few as one classroom up to 10 or 11 for the different things that you're involved with during the school experience. And this is a great way for us to share a lot of information from our school and teachers. The other thing, if you are, that it will be very valid for you, especially if you're 6th grade and up, the student view is a great resource for you to look into. Click on that and make sure your student can log into there, because there's a number of different things that you'll be able to find in that student view as well. All of our K-12 students have this available to them, but our 6th and up will definitely start to use this on day 1 and be able to access a lot of great information from there. So those are the things that we recommend to kind of start to really, before the school year starts, to make sure that you're successful on that first day of school in a couple of days. The last thing that I want to show you, we will be using Zoom in a lot of different ways this school year to provide instruction and support. So we recommend going to the zoom.us/test to practice going to a Zoom to make sure that your Chromebook functions appropriately. And if it doesn't, you can work through some of the troubleshooting tips that Andy talked about. And if those don't work, you can go through that support at ipsd.org. But we recommend going through this just so that you can find success on that first day. And if there are any problems or things that you need to troubleshoot, you can troubleshoot those ahead of time. And so you're not feeling that stress of the first morning, because we know how excited everyone is going to be for that initial welcoming of the teacher, the fun things that you're going to do, and the excitement of a new school year. So we don't want it to feel stressful. So this is a great resource for you to kind of start off the year and make sure that everything works on your Chromebook and start your journey. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Talley to close things up for tonight.
Thank you. I want to thank Mr. Brian Giovannini and Mr. Andy Fecchetti for their presentation tonight. I am hopeful that all of you were able to get some great tips on how to use Chromebooks. Our goal is to provide you the skills to support your children. Please look for our future parent universities. Tonight's presentation will be made available to you on our website. I ask that you share it with friends of yours that may not have been able to participate tonight. If you need additional support, please email our support team. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing your children on Thursday. Have a good night.